You know what I've learned after decades of working with people from every walk of life. Blame will never set you free. Blame will never make you great. And blame will never give you a life of meaning. It doesn't matter how unfair life is, how many times you've been wronged, or what somebody said about you. Blame is not a strategy for greatness. Here's the truth most people miss. Self-esteem doesn't come from what others tell you about yourself. It doesn't come from people clapping for you, or someone saying you're smart, or even someone telling you you're beautiful. Real self-esteem comes from what you experience about yourself. It comes from the results you create, from the promises you keep to yourself, from the growth you achieve day by day. That's why I'm standing here talking to you right now. My mission has never been about motivating people just to feel good in the moment. It's about getting people to feel free, alive, and fulfilled, because you deserve it. You don't just desire it, you deserve it. But here's the catch. To deserve that level of fulfillment, you've got to do certain things. See, whether you realize it or not, you've been hypnotized by a culture of weakness. A culture that says, if life doesn't go your way, point the finger. If someone upsets you, blame them. If you're not happy, it's someone else's fault. But the reality is this. If someone can piss you off, if someone can make you feel less than, if someone can push your buttons so easily, that's not power, that's weakness. And the only antidote to weakness is growth. Because if you're not happy, it's not because life is unfair. It's because you've stopped growing somewhere in your life. Happiness doesn't come from control. Happiness doesn't come from trying to make the world bend to your will. Freedom doesn't come from control. Freedom comes from growth. Think about it. If you keep focusing on what's missing all the time, if you're always obsessing about what you can't control, you're going to feel depressed. And let me tell you something, your depression is not a Zoloft deficiency. Your depression isn't because the universe decided you don't get to be happy. Your depression is the result of what's happening in your mind. It's the result of the patterns of thought you've been running, and the fastest way to stay stuck is to focus on what's missing and what you can't control. Because where does that attention go? Straight into the past. Straight into regret. Straight into resentment. And the more you obsess over the past, the more powerless you feel in the present. But here's the gift: choice. Choice is a gift, and it's always there. You have the ability right now in this moment to choose what you focus on. And here's the simple truth. What you focus on is what you experience. If you focus on pain, you're going to feel pain. If you focus on gratitude, you're going to feel grateful. If you focus on what's missing, you'll feel empty. But if you focus on what's growing, what's working, and what's possible, you will feel alive. See, life isn't about the events that happen to you. Life is about the meaning you give to those events. Two people can go through the exact same challenge. One collapses, the other grows stronger. The difference is focus. The difference is the mindset of saying, I will not let this define me. I will not let this break me. I will grow from this. Progress equals happiness. Let me say that again. Progress equals happiness. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how many awards you've collected, or how much recognition you've received. If you're not growing, you're dying inside. And when you grow, you have more to give. When you give, life becomes magnificent. So stop thinking that happiness is going to come when your circumstances change. Stop believing that once life is fair, you'll feel free. Freedom doesn't come from the world outside. Freedom comes from the decision to grow inside. And here's the thing, I'm not saying people can't be unfair. I'm not saying life isn't unjust. Of course it is. That's reality. People will betray you. People will hurt you. People will misunderstand you, but here's the liberating truth: you can't control that. You can't stop it from happening. What you can do is grow stronger than any of it. You can make yourself so strong internally that no one can steal your joy, no one can steal your power, and no one can keep you from living fully. Because blaming doesn't bring you pride, blaming doesn't bring you strength. Blaming only makes you a victim, and victims never win. What I want for you is to reclaim your power. To understand that everything in life is either a limitation you accept or a limitation you destroy. If someone tells you you're worthless, you get to choose: do you accept that, or do you grow stronger and prove them wrong? And if someone tells you you're incredible, but you don't believe it, that's on you too. Because it doesn't matter what people say. It matters what you believe, what you build, what you create, and what you focus on every single day. That's why I always tell people, the habit of what you put in your head determines the habit of what you put in your life. And right now, we live in a culture that trains people to blame, to complain, to stay angry, to point fingers. And yet the people who are doing that are the most miserable. So my challenge to you is simple. Stop making excuses, stop pointing fingers, stop blaming the world, your parents, your job, your boss, your partner, or anyone else for where you are. Blame is not a strategy for greatness, growth is. And growth starts with a choice. Today, right now, you can choose to focus differently. You can choose to train your mind to look for progress instead of problems. You can choose to put yourself in environments that stretch you instead of shrink you. You can choose to take responsibility instead of passing it off, because the only path to freedom, the only path to happiness, and the only path to fulfillment is growth. And let me leave you with this, you don't get the life you want by waiting for it. You get the life you want by becoming more, and you don't become more by blaming. You become more by growing. You know, when people come to me and they say, "Tunny, I just don't feel happy anymore," my first question is always, where did you stop growing? Because unhappiness is never about lack of resources. It's about lack of progress. And the moment you stop progressing, you start suffering. But here's what's fascinating. Most people think their suffering comes from outside, from the economy, from their boss, from their partner, from what somebody said or didn't say. Yet the truth is, your suffering is rooted in the way you use your body, your mind, and your focus every single day. Let me explain. The quality of your life is the quality of your emotions. Not your bank account, not your job title, not your house, it's your emotions. Because you can have $1 billion and still be miserable. You can have a loving family and still feel empty. You can even be surrounded by friends and still feel alone. Why? Because your emotions are your home. And if your emotional home is built on patterns of stress, anger, blame, or fear, then it doesn't matter what you accomplish, you'll always return to suffering. So the real question is, how do you change your emotional home? I'll tell you, you start with your physiology because your body is the fastest path to changing your emotions. Think about this. If I asked you to imagine a depressed person right now, you could describe them instantly. Their shoulders are slouched, their head is down, their breathing is shallow, their voice is soft and slow. We all know what depression looks like in the body. Now here's the key. If you can identify it, you can change it. If that same person pulls their shoulders back, breathes deeply, lifts their head, speaks with strength, and moves with energy, their biochemistry changes in an instant. That's not theory, that's science. The way you move your body directly impacts the chemistry of your brain. So if you want to change your life, start with your body, move differently, breathe differently, stand differently, speak differently. And when you change your physiology, you change your emotions. But that's only step one. Step two is creating a compelling future. Because if your body is strong, but your future is empty, you'll still feel lost. Human beings are not designed just to get by. We're designed to strive, to contribute, to create something beyond ourselves. That's why people in the darkest circumstances, prisoners in concentration camps, survivors of unimaginable suffering, were able to endure. They had a compelling future, a reason to keep going. Take Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. He survived the concentration camps of Nazi Germany, not because the conditions were bearable, they weren't, but because he found meaning. He told himself, I will survive so that I can share this story and make sure this never happens again. That purpose, that compelling future, gave him the strength to keep living when so many others gave up. So what about you? What's your compelling future? What are you living for that's bigger than yourself? Because if your focus is only on survival, only on getting through the day, that's not compelling. And if your vision is limited to what's missing, what you don't have, or what you can't control, then depression will follow. And here's the reality: antidepressants can numb the pain, but they can't give you purpose. They can quiet your emotions, but they can't create meaning. If your mind is still focused on what's missing, what you can't control, or a scary version of the future, then no pill will save you. Because freedom doesn't come from numbing yourself. Freedom comes from focus, and focus is a choice, always. Right now, you have the choice to focus on what's wrong or to focus on what's strong. You have the choice to dwell on the past or to create the future. You have the choice to feel powerless or to take back your power. But here's the thing: it's not enough just to think positive. That's surface level. Real change happens when you combine physiology with focus. When you train your body and your mind to work together. That's why exercise is so powerful. Because when you push your body beyond its comfort zone, you also train your mind to expand its limits. And that physical strength creates emotional strength. The mind and body are not separate. They are one system. What you do with one impacts the other. If you slump your body, your mind will follow into negative states. If you energize your body, your mind lights up with possibility. And if you train both together, you build an unstoppable state. Now, let me give you a practical tool. Next time you feel yourself sinking into stress or sadness, don't just sit there and think about it. Stand up, move, jump, run, shout, change your breathing, interrupt the pattern. Because when you break the physical pattern, you break the emotional pattern too. And once you've shifted your body, redirect your focus. Ask yourself, what's one thing I can be grateful for right now? Not 10 things, just one. And when you find it, really feel it. Gratitude is the antidote to suffering, because you can't feel grateful and angry at the same time. This is why growth is everything. Growth in your body, growth in your focus, growth in your ability to find meaning. Because if you're not growing, you're not living. Progress equals happiness, always. But let me be real with you. The world we live in today doesn't make it easy. So many people are stuck because they're focusing on exaggerated problems. Whole generations are being taught to fear the future. Young people are saying, why should I even have children if the world is falling apart? But let me tell you something: every generation has believed the world was ending. In the 70s, they said we'd run out of oil. In the 80s, they said the ozone layer would kill us all. We've always had challenges, and we've always adapted, grown, and found solutions. What's different today is that people have lost their compelling future. They're trapped in fear instead of vision. But here's the truth: there's something inside you that's bigger than anything that's ever happened to you. Bigger than your mistakes, bigger than your trauma, bigger than your fears. And if you tap into that, you will find strength you never knew you had. Because the real secret to success isn't avoiding pain, it's finding something you care about more than your pain. Something you care about more than yourself. That's what gives you drive. That's what gives you meaning. That's what gives you the ability to overcome anything. So if you feel stuck right now, don't wait for life to hand you freedom. Create it. Build a future that excites you. Train your body to be strong. Train your mind to focus on progress. And never forget, freedom doesn't come from control. Freedom comes from growth. Now, let's bring everything together. Because here's the truth: transformation isn't about doing one big thing once. It's about doing the small, powerful things consistently. It's about stacking habits, stacking meaning, stacking moments of growth until they compound into a life you're proud of. Too many people wait for life to hand them change. They wait for the promotion, for the partner, for the opportunity, for the break. But waiting never built anyone's destiny. It's not the lottery that creates success. It's the patterns you repeat every single day. So if you're serious about living in a beautiful state, not someday, not when things get better, but now, you've got to commit to 3 things: mastering your state, feeding your mind, and serving something bigger than yourself. Let's start with mastering your state. Your state is the way you feel in any given moment: your emotional energy, your physical intensity, your mental focus. And your state determines every decision you make. If you're in a lousy state, you'll make lousy decisions. If you're in a strong state, you'll make bold, empowering decisions. The good news, you can change your state in an instant. Remember, your physiology is the gateway. Move your body, change your breathing, shake up your system. Don't wait for your emotions to shift, create the shift with your body. The second pillar is feeding your mind, because let's be real, we live in a world where most people feed their mind junk food all day long. Endless scrolling, negative headlines, gossip, comparison, complaining. If you constantly feed your mind garbage, you'll feel like garbage. But when you feed your mind with powerful ideas, with stories of resilience, with strategies for growth, with voices that lift you instead of drain you, then you start to see the world differently. And when you see differently, you act differently. This is why I always tell people your input determines your outlook. Guard your mind like your life depends on it, because it does. And the third pillar, serving something bigger than yourself. Because listen, if your entire focus is me, you'll never feel fulfilled. You might feel moments of pleasure, but fulfillment only comes from contribution, from knowing that your life made a difference, that somebody's life is better because you lived. Think about it. The people we admire most, the heroes, the leaders, the visionaries, they weren't focused on themselves. They were focused on serving humanity, and that doesn't mean you have to start a global movement. Sometimes it's as simple as being there for your family, lifting up a friend, mentoring someone younger, or using your gifts to add value to the world around you. Because here's the paradox: the more you give, the more alive you feel. Contribution is the ultimate fuel for meaning. Now, let me give you something practical to implement today. I want you to create what I call a state-shifting ritual. It doesn't have to be complicated. It could be 3 minutes of deep breathing. It could be blasting your favorite song and dancing like nobody's watching. It could be jumping on a rebounder, going for a run, doing push-ups, or shouting out 10 things you're grateful for at full volume. The key is, make it consistent. Because when you train your nervous system daily to enter a powerful state, you'll build emotional muscles the same way you build physical muscles. And just like lifting weights, repetition is what makes you stronger. Now imagine what your life would look like if you lived 80% of your day in a beautiful state. Imagine handling stress from a place of calm strength instead of panic. Imagine tackling challenges with energy instead of fear. Imagine your relationships, your career, your health, your future all being built on a foundation of joy and certainty instead of anxiety and doubt. That's not just a fantasy, that's available to you right now, but only if you decide, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to decisions, not conditions, not circumstances, decisions. Your destiny is shaped by the choices you make moment to moment. Do you choose growth, or do you choose comfort? Do you choose courage, or do you choose fear? Do you choose to create, or do you choose to complain? Life is short. We don't know how much time we have. But what we do know is that each day is a gift. Each morning you wake up with breath in your lungs is another chance to design the life you want. Don't waste it. Don't sleepwalk through it. Don't give your power away to fear, excuses, or distractions. So, let me challenge you, starting today, take ownership, own your state, own your focus, own your future. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for certainty. Stop waiting for everything to line up perfectly, because it never will. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward in spite of fear, and freedom isn't waiting for the world to change. Freedom is deciding to grow no matter what the world throws at you. And remember, this happiness is not a destination. It's not waiting for you out there somewhere. Happiness is a practice. It's a decision. It's a state you can cultivate daily. And when you live from that place, not only do you transform your own life, you inspire others to transform theirs too. So here's my final call to you. Don't just watch this and feel motivated for a few minutes. Take action. Decide what your ritual will be. Decide what your compelling future looks like. Decide how you will serve. Write it down, own it, live it, because inspiration without action is just entertainment. You were made for more than survival. You were made to thrive. You were made to lead. You were made to create, to love, to contribute, to grow. That's who you are at your core, and the world is waiting for you to step into that version of yourself fully. So step up, break the pattern, master your state, build your vision, and live in a beautiful state every single day. Because winners don't quit. Leaders don't hide, and you were born for greatness.